Yes, hello. Today I will be going over my pick for the top 5 best decks that you can play for this current event where you need to get 5 wins in a row consecutively. That's right, a little bit of redundancy never hurt anyone. Anyways, before we get into the action, if you want to see this live, you can follow me on Twitch at SirPotatoPhil. I stream Monday through Fridays at random intervals. It's a hobby, so don't sue me. And yes, I keep using the same joke, and no, it's never not going to get funny for me. Deck lists will be shown right away because this is not that type of video. So without further ado, let's get into it. And first up, we have what I call the tourney winner deck. So essentially, the main win con is Rampardos, but you also heavily rely on your Lucario in order to deal extra damage. Or damage, as I like to say. You also have one Marshadow in order to help you with dealing with your opponent when they kill one of your units. But again, Lucario's the big guy. Sudowoodo is also extremely relevant here because he deals a lot of damage to EXs, plus 40 base damage isn't that bad, especially when you got Lucario on board, right? So in order to show you that this is in fact definitely the 5 win streak, there you go, there's the emblem. I'm showing you right now, this deck took me literally, it was I think 7 total fights. I won one, then lost one, then won the 5 in a row. So it's amazing and I strongly recommend it. #1 deck to play in this format. And the second best deck in the format that I would say to play is the Dialga Arceus deck, or as I like to call it, Arceus or God. Essentially, the idea here is you're ramping up, so that way by like turn 3 or 4, you're swinging with your God and essentially just murdering things. And again, there's the consecutive 5 wins, but if you need to see the emblem, I'm going to show it to you right now. Essentially, it's pretty simple game plan. Start with Dialga. Doesn't matter if you go first or second. Ramp it up to 2, swing, get your God set up, and just deal the damage necessary in order to, well, essentially just win. The capes are also relevant in that deck because you want to be able to keep yourself out of a one-shot kill range. So you definitely want to be putting that on Dialga and Arceus, or God as I like to call it. And that really helps with just keeping yourself alive in the match. And make sure to pivot a lot and you should be fine. And my third pick for decks to play in this format is going to be specifically the Darkrai God Crobat deck. The only reason why I'm picking this over the next spot, honestly, spots 3 and 4 are very interchangeable because honestly, I think you're going to have varying results in regards to this deck and the next deck as to which one is truly better. But for me, I found that this deck was more consistent, or better to say, I got lucky with this one a little bit more than the 4th one on this list. So essentially, the game plan is pretty simple. You essentially build up the Crobat, hide behind Darkrai or the weak Arceus, and just soak up damage, and then pretty much finish them off with pinging with Crobat and swinging with the Darkrai. It's actually surprisingly very effective, and I think it does really well in this meta. The 4th deck on this list is the Articuno 18 Trainer deck, or I like to call it the Cheese deck. Now, I'm playing an extra Mon, simply as Palkia, and honestly, that thing has been a game changer because there are games where I needed to do a 1 energy dish out, and this was fantastic. So in this case, it's more of a 17 Trainer, but I found it a little bit more consistent. So that was just my personal thing. But again, it's a 5 win streak deck. I'm going to show you again the emblem so you know that this in fact has been done. And it's amazing. And so if you're wondering how many accounts I have 5, but only 4 of them I needed to show that they could actually do this. The last one is just going to be my choice of, deck that I think is really good for this event. But overall, I think that this deck does really well and could easily have been number 3 on the list. All right, and the final deck that I want to show is what I call Nose. So once again, here's the consecutive 5 wins. I just want to point out that this is the final account that I used to get the consecutive 5 wins. This is a completely different account than before. This is the deck that I used to get the 5 wins in a row. This one was extremely crazy. I think there was a level of luck that played into this, like the matchups. However, what I do want to stress is that I did it in 5 wins straight. Now, I'm still putting this in last place simply because I know a lot of people are not going to really truly believe that this deck is actually as good as it is, but I think the inclusion of Skarmory really actually helps out the deck a lot. It gives it a lot of early game damage that really helps with setting up the Probopass EX in case you can't find Dialga. The problem with just having Dialga and Probopass EX initially is that you really have only 2 mons to really focus on, and Dialga's pretty darn slow. So unless you get Dialga and Probopass at the beginning, Skarmory really helps even out that curve and helps you build up Dialga or Probopass depending on whichever one that you need to find. Now, with that being said, let me just show you that this is definitely a different account. Just so you can see, as you can see, level 26, different from all the other ones, named Trade, and here you go, there is the emblem. So, without further ado, that's pretty much the 5th deck that I used. I'm actually quite surprised that this is the one I did. Now, just before we end, I do want to also say that there are other decks that could do it. These 5 that I put in this list are not the only 5. However, these are the 5 that I used, and therefore I can recommend. And there you have it. The top 5 decks that I would pick based upon the 5 accounts that I used to beat the event 5 times over. If you have any other decks that you think should have made it on this list that I didn't use, let me know down in the comments below. I'm sure there's more than just these 5. There clearly is, considering I already mentioned Celebi as another option if you have the cards, which I do not, because I just don't have it. I don't know what to tell you. But with that being said, that's the wideo. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next wideo.